Alright, what is up, you bunch of Élofs? It's your drill commander here, and I'm gonna teach you how to polish your boot. Now, I've heard that some of you are having troubles polishing your boots, so if you're not, I'm here to teach you. Now, while y'all are on your break, I've been sitting here making this video because I care about you guys, and I care about the success of my team, and I care about your success in the military. So, I'm gonna teach you how to polish boots. Now, what I'm gonna show you is the method that I use. Now, some super cadet Élof out there is gonna be like, oh, that's wrong, he's doing it wrong, why is he doing that, he's not doing that right, I'm cuter than him, whatever. This is the method that works for me. It's the method that has gotten my boots from looking like this to like this. So it's just how I do things. If it works for you, great. If it doesn't, then you're gonna have to look for another method. But yeah, I'm gonna show you how to do it straight from stripping down, base layer, burn shining, use of dry coats, and then finally spit shining. I've got this pair of boots that I've stripped down so that you and I can start from the very beginning, so that we can go from here to here. Look at that, look how shiny that is. Can you get a close-up on that? Whatever. All right, let's get started. First of, stripping. So, when it comes to stripping down your boots, I know some of you guys have started polishing and it doesn't seem to work. We've all made mistakes. Luckily, this is a mistake that you can undo. What I usually do when it comes to stripping down my boots is to use this thing called steel wool. I don't know what it is in French, but basically what I use is a very fine steel wool, and what it does is it strips down the wax that you've already put on your boots, and it leaves a more even layer on top. Now, if you notice, I also took out the laces because it's easier to polish your boots, especially for base coating. It's easier to polish your boots if you take out the laces. Right, so now that you're done with stripping down your boots, you will see that the leather is a little bit more smooth, and you can move on to base coat. Alright, so for base coating, this is basically where burn shining is the most useful. Basically what you want to do is you want to put a layer of dry coat on top of the surface that you're going to be working on, and then you melt that just ever so slightly so that it gets into the crevices and kind of leaves an even layer out on the surface of the boot. You want to keep doing that multiple times until you get like a more even layer, and it you know, there's a certain texture of leather. You want to make sure that you're getting rid of that. Right, okay. Now, what I like to do when I'm polishing is I like to use two different cloths, one for buffing and my dry coats, and the other is for just the Spitshine, and we'll get to that later. But they're two different cloths, and because when you use base coat, it actually leaves a little kind of like crusty thing that you don't want to use when you're spit shining. So it gets really crusty, and it gets down to the cloth there, and it's very rough. So it's going to leave a lot of streaks on top of the finishing shine there. So you want to pick like a cloth that you can use for two different parts, or don't use the same spot where you polished with the base coat with the spit shine. So alright, so for base coat, you want to have like pretty thick layer on your cloth, right? You want to have something like just about like that. You just grind it out and just, you know, get a lot of wax on there. Now, if you take a look at the boot that I have, there's a bunch of like crevices there, and a bunch of like, not necessarily cracks, but like chips, right? So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna fill that in with wax so that it evens out with the rest of the boot. You just do circles. If you want to focus on here, you just do like circles and just fill those gaps right there. And what the circles does is it kind of evens out the rest. You kind of apply it evenly all throughout the boot, right? And you want to do that like multiple times, so you want to You want to put more coats on there. I like to work with one whole section, so like one, like this part here up to where the seams are. You just kind of cover all of that with wax. Now I understand there's going to be parts here, especially for this boot, that it's quite old, that there's the creases now where, you know, where you walk and your foot bends when you walk. That's fine. Just try to get it in as much areas as possible. Now for your guys' boots, it should look more like this, where there's it's easier to polish and get in on that. Try to polish that still, and I'm going to show you later. I actually still polish this part here, the tongue. Just put that part, you can see it. Right. Another note for when you're applying the dry polish on for the base coat is you just want to apply it so that it's all even on the surface and there are no clumps on it. Basically, you're doing the circling motion to apply the polish, but that's much it. Like, you see, it's very, very dull, right? And you don't need to make it look shiny at the very beginning. You just got to trust the process, that you're just applying the base coat for now, and you're applying it to even out the leather that's underneath. Right. Now that I feel like I've put enough wax on the boot, that's the base layer. It's just dry coat. You want to take your lighter and you just lightly just kind of brush that against the wax or the surface, and very quickly too. You don't want to leave it on the leather, because if you do, what happens is you're melting it too much that the thing is gonna crack. So you don't want to dry out the wax. You just want to melt it so that it'll fill in those gaps on the surface of the boot. The reason why you're liquefying the wax is so that it's easier to get into the crevices, because when it's just wax, there's a lot of gaps that it's not filling in, but when it's melted, just a little bit melted, it gets in on that, gets in on those crevices there. And how do you know it's melted? Well, you'll know when it looks like, you know, it's basically like getting a little glossy, right? So you just want to do that. Okay, so you've melted it, you've melted the wax, that's fine. Now you gotta wait and let it dry. What are you gonna do? You're just gonna sit there and wait for it to dry? No, you're gonna take your fist, shove it in the other boot, and do the exact same thing. And what you're gonna do, you're gonna wanna do it multiple times so that there's enough layer of solid base coat so that we can move on to the next bit. So that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna keep working on this same boot here for ease of showing you guys how to do it. But basically, I'm just gonna keep working on the same boot to make sure that you know, I get it like this even polish. By the way, you should probably be polishing the rest of your boot, much like this one here. See how that shines, and then bam, shiny, bam, shiny. God damn, but that's what you want to do. Bam! Wardrobe change. Alright, so you've done the base coat multiple times. So you've done a dry coat on top and then melted it, and then did another layer of dry coat and then melted it, and did that multiple times. Then you did that with the other boot, and you've done it all throughout your boot. Now you're ready to start spit shining. Now, this is where my method is different from other people's. This is what I find actually helps out the most. What I do is I put a layer of dry coat first on top before I move on with the spit shine, and I'm going to show you how I do that. Now, there's still going to be parts on the leather that's still not filled in. What you're going to do is you're going to fill that in with just normal dry polish before you do a normal spit shine coat. So, same thing that I did before. Make sure that this is not too dry. And I'm just gonna put that on top of the layer that I'm gonna work on. So I'm just gonna try and fill in those parts that still were not filled in by the base coat. once you're done that, you take your, I take another spot on another cloth, or I take my Spitshine cloth, and I start spit shining. Now, do I usually use spit? No, I don't actually use spit. Now, some of you guys will use water. That's fine. I'm going to show you how to use water. So you just dip it in there, get that water, get that cloth soaked, right? Like you just get that all wet. Get some polish. And then what I was taught to do before is once I've done that, is a little bit more water and just a little bit more polish, and you just start working on it. Now, because you had quite a bit of wax that you put on before the Spitshine coat, it's gonna take a while. It's gonna get really cloudy. So you just gonna keep doing those circles for a while. One way to get rid of it, if it's still very cloudy, is you just breathe on it, right? So you just keep doing that. Now see, you're still gonna see all those like cloudy stuff, right? And the only way that you can get rid of that is with moisture, because it's wax. Okay. There you go. Now, another thing that I use instead of using water, I actually use this thing called Aqua Velva. It's an aftershave. And what it does is it evaporates quicker than water. So as soon as it touches the boot, the cloth is still wet, but it doesn't leave a lot of like moisture on the boot. So I'm gonna use Aqua Velva. I'm gonna do the same thing I did before with the dry coat, because I can see, if you can see here, there's still quite a bit of parts there that needs working on, right? Like it's not perfect. So what you want to do is just use the dry coat to even out that surface, right? So I'm gonna do the same thing. I'm gonna, just get some dry polish on that bid. Now, another thing, once you're doing this part here where you're doing the dry coat before the Spitshine coat, you don't want to let it dry too long, because if you let it dry, then it's going to get really hard for you to actually drive in that wax with the Spitshine. So yeah, I just use Aqua Velva. I just make sure that the whole cloth is wet, or that my fingertip is wet, and just a little bit of wax. Not too much, and I just drive that in there. And if I find that there's too much wax and not a lot of moisture on my cloth, then I just do the same thing, or I breathe on the boot. Now, there's gonna come a certain point where you just need to do like a quick shine once you've, put enough polish on your boot that you just need a quick shine. Just do the same thing, really. You just, get some water or wet your cloth, and you don't need a lot of wax at this point, so you just dab it a little bit there, and just do the same thing. And this is just to basically shine the polish. You're not adding more layers to it. You're just basically polishing it to maintain that shine. And there you go. I just started working on this yesterday. This is probably about 5 or 6 base coats, and then I did the dry coat with the spit shining. Obviously, there's still gonna be like it's not done. Like there's still some parts there that I can fill in with the dry coat, but I don't have to burn shine it anymore. I just need to do the dry coat and then the spit shine and then dry coat and the spit shine. And the thing with polishing is that there's not going to be an easy trick. There's not going to be like a quick trick to, you know, get your boots from like butt ass fucking leather to like that. It's gonna be a lot of work. I mean, this I can have my boots in my locker for, you know, 6 months at a time, not have to touch it, and as long as nothing touches it, it's still shiny. So, oh shit, that's water. Anyways, yeah, that's pretty much the process there. If you got any questions, just let me know. I'll help you out. But hopefully this helps you out in your polishing, and hopefully that your boots are much better by the end of this. Cheers. Another thing about burn shining, if you don't like using a lighter or flame in general, you can use hair dryer. I also bought a heat gun that actually works well, but you got to be careful with it, because if it gets really, like, if it gets too hot, it will dry out the wax, and you'll get that like cracking look after wearing your boots for like 2 minutes. So the big thing about burn shining is you just want to melt it like very quickly without leaving the flame or the heat on the wax, that it dries it out. So now that you're done polishing your boots, and you know, you wear it on parade or whatever, and then it for some reason it gets damaged, there's like a couple chips, or it starts cracking again, do you have to strip your boots down again? Not necessarily. What you can do is to just melt the polish that you already have on the boot and start doing dry coats again, because you already have the base coat and everything on there. So you don't have to go through all the work of, you know, stripping it down, doing another layer, a couple layers of base coat, and then doing the dry coats and the Spitshine polish. You can just melt the wax that you already have on top, and then just do dry coats to, you know, fill in the gaps or whatever, and then do Spitshine. That way you're not doing a lot of work for something that you've already done before.